and I recommend that we start immediately with the next session. We have 2 keynote speeches. First speech will be given by Matthias Kekel, Managing Partner, Fraunhofer Technology Transfer Funds. He will talk on proof of concept funding of research spin-offs. It will be a 20-minute presentation. We will allow a few questions after the presentation. Please feel free to ask questions in the chat. So we will transfer the questions to the presenter, to Matthias Kekel. And after that, we will have then the second presentation. So I invite Mr. Matthias Kekel, if he's already online. We are now surprisingly in front of the schedule, so we have still 9 minutes to start the session. But if you're ready, Matthias, we can start.
Thank you, Robert, for your kind introduction. So I would share my presentation with you.
Thank you. Perfect. We just need to see the full screen. If you can put it on the full screen, it would be great.
And Robert?
No, it's not yet full screen. We see your presentation, but it's in the editing mode. I mean, we can see, but
switch it to presentation mode on your PowerPoint, please.
Yes, I already switched to the presentation mode. So
if you have two windows, I mean two screens. Then...
Yes, I have 2 screens. Yes.
Okay, but it's also.
So I can end my second screen. So maybe it will help to give you full screen. Can you see the full screen now?
Not yet. This is now the presenter mode. So but it's also like that. It's okay. If you leave it like that, perfect. Now it's okay.
Perfect.
Perfect.
I tried my best.
Thank you. Perfect.
So sorry for some technical problems at the beginning. So and Robert, thank you for inviting me and for your kind introduction. So today I would like to present or give you an overview of the FTTF. It's a tech transfer fund in Germany. It follows the venture capital framework. And I would also go more in detail what we understand doing proof of concept investments. So first, a quick overview of our venture capital fund. The venture capital fund, Fraunhofer Tech Transfer Fund, is backed by the European Investment Fund and the Fraunhofer Society. And we as a management team are also aligned. We invested also some capital in the venture capital fund. The fund size is 60 million euros. We started operations 3 years ago. Usually we start with a first ticket size of 250,000 euros. If I talk about a pre-seed investment, so I think it's the same in our common understanding like a proof of concept investment. But please be patient. I would go more in detail later about our pre-seed approach. In total, we have the opportunity to invest up to 5 million euros in one single startup. I think usually we will invest not more than 2 or 3 million euros over different financing rounds. And as I said, or I tried to explain before, we following the usual path of a venture capital investment company, but we have 2 conditions we have to keep in mind. The first condition is we only invest in startups which are using Fraunhofer technologies from Fraunhofer institutes. That's very important for us to keep in mind. We can only invest in a startup with a contract, with a licensing contract which has the opportunity to use the technology from our institute. And the second condition is we start very early to invest. So compared to other venture capital companies, we start briefly after tech startup is founded with a first investment. Just a quick view on the management team. In total, we are 8 people based in Munich and in Bonn and in Freiburg. Bonn is in the west of Germany and Freiburg in the southwest. So it's easier for us to get in touch with our startups because Munich is in the south, and it's sometimes pretty hard to travel to Berlin because it's 700 kilometers away from Munich. So it's better to have different locations. And we have experience in the field of tech transfer and investment management. We founded 7 high-tech companies in the past, and our offer is to the deep tech companies to accelerate their business and also to provide smart capital. That means we would like to open our network to investors and to other industry partners. So if you look at the frame of venture capital or the usual stages of startup companies, I think everyone is familiar with the framework. The FTTF is focusing on the early stages. We call it pre-seed or seed. I think pre-seed is very similar with the understanding of a proof of concept investment. So that's our usual entry point in our investment approach. In Germany, we observe some current trends and developments, especially that more venture capital is available, beginning with the Series A financing round. And we also see that deep tech startups get more attention in Germany. And also the ESG framework is more important, especially for startups and venture capital investors. So if we go to the question, why the Fraunhofer Tech Transfer Fund was necessary, I would like to point out will guide you to the left side of my slide. You see the Gartner life cycle. Usually every technology is hyped at the beginning, but after some public programs don't offer further investments or further grants, the hype is lowering. So we see in that phase a clear gap, especially for deep tech startups. So our approach is to offer first tickets. So the startup or the founding team have the opportunity to set up a startup, to accelerate the business, and also to prove if the business concept is working. So that's our approach, to give first money and to accelerate the business. So we at the STTF, we are a full independent venture unit with no influence from Fraunhofer or from other partners, but we have a very close collaboration with some Fraunhofer tech transfer programs like AHEAD or the CoLab program. Very interesting programs, especially the AHEAD program. It's an incubation and acceleration program for a lot of future startup projects within the Fraunhofer Society. We have also access to German innovation hubs. Innovation hubs is an initiative from the Federal Ministry of Economic, spread all over Germany in the fields of logistics, new production methods, or health. So it's very efficient for us to be connected to the internal progress and also to some innovation hubs. Our promise is to bridge the research side to the capital side, to give the first amount of money, And we also want to set up a very efficient structure of the startup right from the beginning. And for us, it's very important that our first investment is enough to have a runway of 12 up to 18 months. That's very important. And it would be very negative if a startup company runs out of money after 6 months. So we need a good understanding that the first investment is enough to have a runway of at least 1 year. So some additional explanations about the Fraunhofer Society. Maybe some of you already know Fraunhofer, but for the rest of the audience, I would like to give you some more information. Fraunhofer is a research organization in Germany for applied sciences. They have nearly 30,000 employees. The annual budget is 2.8 billion euros. You have to know Fraunhofer has a very close network or a very close link to the industry side, because 1/3 of the research budget comes directly from industry partners. So that's the reason why Fraunhofer is a research organization for applied sciences. More than 70 institutes are in different technical fields like logistics or health or biotech and optics or whatever you name it, are spread all over Germany. Some research units are also abroad, especially in Europe, but also in US and in Asia. And if we look at the startup side, there are different categories of startups at Fraunhofer. And the FTTF is focusing on the venture capital startups. That means startups with a high need to get external money and with the potential to grow and to grow and to accelerate their business. So the other startups, that is not our focus, and so we have a very good split with the tech transfer office at Fraunhofer. We focus on the venture capital startups, and the other startups, especially smaller startups or strategic startups, are still inside the Fraunhofer Society, and they have a good support from the tech transfer office at Fraunhofer. So now a bit more information. We're switching to the proof of concept investments, or we call it also pre-seed investments. What are the requirements? For us, it's essential to have access to the technology. And I talk always about a founded startup. We don't invest in projects, we only invest in founded startups, in real companies. So the company needs access to the technology. They need a freedom to operate, they need acceptable licensing fees. And another important point is that we need a good founding team. Founding team is the core. We want to see a full commitment. We don't want to see researchers who want to stay within the research organization and try to do a little bit of startup. On the other side, we need a full commitment. And it's also very important that the founders are the main shareholders at the very beginning. We don't want any strategic shareholders. We don't accept the Fraunhofer as a non-profit organization as a shareholder. The founding team has to be the only one shareholder at the beginning. And last, we want to see at least a good structured concept of a business model. We want to see that the founders have an understanding of the market needs or the market side. Especially Fraunhofer researchers have a very good understanding of the market side, because Fraunhofer is a research organization for applied sciences, so they usually had contact to the industry side, and so they have a very good understanding. but we want to see also how they can transfer their past understanding to the future startup company. So last, the setup of the FTTF POC pre-seed investments is that, as I already described, the startup has to be founded. So we only invest in startups, and we follow or we develop a standard approach. So we invest usually 250,000 euros as a convertible loan, and we take 7.5 shares of the company for our convertible loan. The FTTF is usually the first investor in the POC phase. Sometimes other investors, especially business angels, join the POC investments. And usually the startup is pre-revenue. So if we invest, the startup has a clear structure, has access to technology, maybe they have started some pilot projects, and they have an idea of a business model, but to be honest, they are nearly always pre-revenue. So, and I think I tried to present some first figures and facts from our past 3 years. In total, we invested in 21 startups in the proof of concept phase. We had the opportunity last year in 2020 to get access to the Corona Matching Facility, because the Corona Matching Facility is a support program from the German government, managed by the European Investment Fund. So we had the opportunity to get a bit more investments last year for our POCs. And so you see 8 of the 21 we did together with some co-investors, sometimes with business angel or other venture capital investors. 7 POC investments, we had the opportunity to get additional capital from the Corona Matching Facility. And 6 investments we did alone as the first investor. And if you look on the right side, you see what types of licensing contracts have been the base of each of the POC investments. So you see the main part is at least partly exclusive or exclusive. And we have also some non-exclusive licensing agreements. So you see it's not necessary to start with an exclusive license, especially if we talk about some software-related business models. And we have also seen that it's sometimes enough if the core team is changing into the startup, especially if we talk about some software-related business models. So I would say it's not necessary to have an exclusive licensing agreement. But if we talk more in the field of hardware, I think exclusive licensing agreements have to be the main strategy for a startup company, especially if you want to get more capital in the future. So if we look at some numbers, we started operations in January 2020. We screened more than 400 potential POC deals in the last 3 years. The average proof of concept investment is nearly 400,000 euros. So you see some co-investors invest also some relevant amounts of capital in that stage of the startup company. The average age of a startup company at the time of our POC investment is under half a year. So the startup is only 5.4 months old. So I think that's the proof that we invest very early in startups, in deep tech startups. And another important point is when did the startup achieved to convince further investors after we did the first investment. So the average time from our POC investment to the follow-on investment is roughly at 13 months. So a little bit more than a year, but still under 1.5 years. So it's a very good first feedback from our database. Maybe next year we are a little bit, we have more information, but it seems that our POC investment is working. And another important point is that we also convinced more than 20 new co-investors for the follow-on investments. That means usually the seed investment stage. So that have been some first facts and figures. And last, I would like to present 2 case studies before we start with the Q&A session. Our first investment was the Darmstadt Graphics Group. The Darmstadt Graphics Group, founded in October 2018. We did our investment in March 2019. So you see, only 5 months after the founding. The first year, the startup tried to set up the business model, to improve the technology, to set up the first product ideas. And unfortunately, in April 2000 or March 2020, the pandemic started, and unfortunately also the startup needed some additional capital. But that was a huge step forward. They convinced the venture capitalist from Austria and also some new business angels, also the former head of strategy from Microsoft, Charlie Songhurst, to join the seed round. And we see the startup developed very well since April 2020. So now they are preparing the Series A. They have some sales representatives in US and in UK and in Asia. They have very deep or tech companies as a customer from US or Europe. And also a new CEO joined the company, the former researcher who started as a CEO, changed to the CTO role. And the new CEO has a very good track record in the field of startups. So you see, you need time, but you need also a good opportunity to start your company. And to be honest, you need also a little bit of luck to start your deep tech startup. And last, the startup Credium. I think it's also a good example to show you when we start with our what is a good starting point to set up a relationship between an investor and a startup company in the early stages. So we met the Credium team 2 years ago during the time at the Ahead program at Fraunhofer. We tried to understand the business concept more in detail. We tried to build up a good relationship to the future founders. And so we had a good understanding of the founding team, and especially of the technology and also what the team is planning to do as the next step. And so the Credium was founded in June 2020. And we started to do the due diligence and the negotiation, and within 6 months we also finished our POC investment in the Credium company. And so you see, it's a long way to understand early stage founders, but you have to be fast after the company was founded. So I think it's also a good example to show you POC investments need time before you invest, but you have also on the other side be fast to do your investment, because startups need capital, and startups need capital in the early stages, not only in later stages, to start their business. Okay. I'm open to answer some additional questions. So I'm pretty fast, Robert. So I'm 5 minutes ahead.
Yes, thank you, Matthias.
But we started a bit earlier.
It's our hidden plan, so we have still time for questions. So I don't see any questions in chat, but if anybody from the audience would like to ask a question, now would be the time. So I don't see any raised hands. Please let me know, or just switch on the microphone if you want to speak. If not right now, I will maybe just
if I could ask one question to Matthias.
Yes, Natalia. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah. I would like a little bit more feedback of you, how you address the potential investors, and do you have a particular pitch for them, or how do you include the private investors to invest into the fund? You said before that at the first closing, usually they are not present, but probably on the later on. So what is your approach towards the private investors?
So Natalia, you're addressing the follow-on investment round. Do you, or?
No, yeah, I'm addressing the second closing of the fund, TT fund. So investors into the TT fund.
No. We didn't have a second closing. So our investors are the European Investment Fund and the Brown Society, and we as a management team, as a GPs. So we didn't have a second closing. So the fund was closed with the first closing. And
so that's on the level, then on the level of the portfolio company, yeah.
So I'm not sure. I'm not sure what you're addressing.
You are then co-investing alongside private investors into the company itself.
So okay, yeah. Now I have your question. So we as the FTTF are a private investor, so we have a private status, and we invest in early stages in real startups and deep tech startups for the Natalija Society, and maybe some further or third-party investors join our investment in the POC phase, and especially in later stages. So for us, it's very important that new investors join later investment rounds, because otherwise we are the only one investor for the whole time. So we need additional third-party investors later, but that's on the level of the startup, not on the level of the fund.
So on the level of the fund, you don't have other private investors.
No. Okay, so that was my question. Investment, the European Investment Fund and the Brown Society.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Natalia, for question, and Matthias for answers. Any other questions from the audience? In chat, I don't see any questions. If anybody would like to ask, we have still 1 or 2 minutes. Andre, we don't hear you very well.
I haven't spoken yet.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
You can ask. Yes, please.
Matthias, first of all, thank you for your presentation. Obviously, you have a business plan as well, so it was quite clear how you draw the boundaries into which you are willing to invest or not. And my question is, how did you decide upon those boundaries, considering the technology is evolving, there is inflation, and there are so many factors that are ongoing? Is this something fixed that you have, or you have some hysteresis to say to accommodate? What's the shady area, basically?
Yes. So I think you want to know what is the key element of a startup if you look at a startup, correct? Yes. Okay. The core element is always the founding team, always the people behind the technology, behind the startup company. I want to understand the people, especially in early stages, because you can't look at the past. You have a very new entity. So maybe you can look at the past only on the research side, and you can believe in the technology or not. But you need to understand the people. You need to understand the drivers of the startup team. And so we want to see a full commitment. So we don't want to see part-time entrepreneurs. We want to see full-time entrepreneurs. That's essential. So I think it's true to say you can transfer, you can develop not so a medium technology with a very good team instead of a very good technology with a bad team. So team is essential. Team is the core of every investment decision we do.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that is
Thank you.
Question. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrei, for question. Okay, Matthias, I'm sure I would like to ask you, many questions, but we don't have time right now because we need to move further with the conference. But I'm sure we can still discuss off the record with you. Thank you for your efforts, for all your help within this conference, for your keynote. And now we will switch to the next presenter.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matthias.
Thank you, Robert, and hopefully we meet very soon in person.
Thank you. Hopefully, yes. Yes, we'll work on that.
Greetings.
Okay, so now I would like to introduce the next keynote speaker, Natalija Stošicki, Director Investments and EU Programs Department at SID Banka, Ljubljana. Slovenska izvozna in razvojna banka. So Natalija will speak on the CEET platform, Central Eastern European Technology Transfer Platform. So Natalija, thank you for being with us, and please you can start sharing your screen.
Thank you for inviting me.
Welcome.
Okay, just to start sharing. I hope you will see. Yeah,
yes, we see your screen.
Yeah.
If you can make it full screen.
Yeah, I will try to. It's the same.
Yeah.
So let's just see. No, it's not it. But do you see the screen now?
We see the screen, so you can also use this one. But now you are currently on the 5th slide. So.
No, yeah, I'm sure. So I will try it like this. So in October, so very early in October, actually already in September, SID Banka, Croatian Development Bank, and EIF Fund signed a contract to set up the Central Eastern European Technology Transfer Platform. And actually, this is the first type of connecting on the product side or the platform side, several, not just one, development bank in Europe. Before that, before setting up the platform, SID Banka established in 2017 the CGIP platform of 100 million euros. And Croatian Development Bank in 2018, the krogi, which was the size of the 80 million euro. And both programs were dedicated to support or to finance the private equity market, each in their own country, actually. And now we are more than 2 years after that, or even 3 now. We are very found out that these programs are very, very successful. So all the money was already almost exhausted or allocated to the private equity fund managers and down to the portfolio companies. So we decided to top up this platform. So we will now top up the CG platform for another 100 million euro. And krogi will be by the Croatian Development Bank as well topped up with additional funding. Among those top of funds, some of that funds will be dedicated to invest into the Central European Technology Central CETT platform, which will be of the 40 million euro size. The idea is actually that the platform will invest. I will show later on the structure of the platform. Will invest in the CETT investment funds like VC fund that we saw the presentation before, and the platform structured in the actually basically almost the same manner as it was structured already by our Italian colleagues, Cassa Depositi Prestiti in Italy, together with the EIF. So in Italy, have the similar structure ITTC platform for that. Aim of the platform is to support the most promising TT projects which are originated at public research organizations in Slovenia and Croatia that would otherwise be considered not mature enough for the traditional venture capital funds. So we're addressing the so-called value of that was already mentioned before. And to eliminate the discrepancy between the excellent results achieved by the research organizations in both countries, actually, and the scarcity of financial resources dedicated to support the commercialization of such results. So why is CETT crucial? If you look at the Slovenian environment about the innovation performance, they have actually strong research performances, which is not translated into innovation, and the lack of breakthrough innovations creating new markets. Then, of course, there are traditional financial gaps for financing innovations. Transition from laboratory to company and scale up for high-risk innovative startups are the most important gaps that we see that it needs to be addressed, and it's the aim to address it by the CETT platform. And of course, the aim was also to develop the ecosystem to support innovation. We have in Slovenia and also in Croatia the national and local ecosystems, but are fragmented at national levels. So all pros and all talents, we feel that they need to be included. It should be also centralized, not so much fragmented, or at least it should be connected into the network. So what we are doing, we will address, so we will close the gap. It's a little bit different than my colleague from before, the presentation from before. We will actually addressing the gap from the phase TRL 4 up to TRL 9. So not only actually later TRLs, but also the from the production of in laboratory phase forward on. The reason is because if we look at the environment from, let's say, from the Western Europe on this area, you have different agencies or government agencies or funds that mainly do support this later stage, stages from TRL 1 to up to TRL 7 with the grants. In Slovenia, grants are dedicated to that phases, but it's not actually enough of the size, and it's not on a regular basis. So what we are trying to do with the platform is to partially also address that phases, so early phases as well. In order to evaluate what would be the market gap, actually the possible pipeline for the funds, for the fund managers, so the pipeline for the fund managers to invest into. EIF did the market analysis for both markets, so Croatian and Slovenian market, and the estimation, the market analysis showed that During the next 5 years, the universities and research centers of the two countries are expected to generate a deal flow of more than 350 patents, patent applications, and 100 spin-off companies. And we will allocate 40 million euros through the CETT initiative, but the estimation of EIF is that although that's quite a lot of money, it would still not be sufficient to cover the full absorption capacity of the two countries. So that there will be room for other further private initiatives. So the investment program that will be covered by the CETT platform for funding, basically, there will be primary fund investments. So there will be investments into the VCTT funds that will be actually established. So they are not existing, but that will be established. And their investment focus will be on technology transfer activities across various fields. So it will not specifically for only, I don't know, deep tech, but across various fields. So the fund should focus on providing financing primarily to university and research center spin-offs and to projects of the proof of concept stage. So when it's still on the stage before the spin-off company is established. And the fund will also provide follow-on financing to these projects from the CETT funding. EIF have now the closed call to, I put a web page down, you could see it. If you want to have more detailed information about that, you could visit it. I am inviting you to do that. So the EIF have now a call of expression of interests for the fund managers who would be interested to establish such a TT fund and to get the financing, the investments from the CETT platform. And the call would be closed in the end of October, and then the EIF will start to screen the applicants, the applicant fund managers, and perform the due diligence, whether they have enough knowledge and experience to be able to provide efficient TT project funding. So this is now, that's what is going on. So the main investment parameters of the fund was defined by EIF, Sitbanka, and Croatian Development Bank together. More focus would be on projects in the proof of concept stage, and it's expected to present a majority of the investments actually in respect of the number of the pipeline of the fund, not in respect of the size or in respect of the value of the investments. The enterprises that the fund will invest must be in the seed, startup, or later stage venture investment stage and must originate from the universities or research institutes. As well as the fund will, I already explained, invest into the pre-seed stage as well. We excluded from the financing the financial service sector and the real estate sector, so the primary focus would be in the industry, deep tech, etc. This is the structure of the platform. I hope you see it well. So within this 40 million euro, the Sitbanka will participate on the platform 10 million, Croatian Development Bank 10 million, and EIF 20 million. So in order to invest 40 million into the technology transfer fund, which will then invest into the patents, license, spin-offs, startups, etc. And we expect now that I think that in January or February, the EIF will will choose one of the managers of the fund that will be established. And the management team will be of the experience, and they have appropriate know-how. And then the fund manager will enter into the cooperation with the universities and research centers. Probably it will be, as it was presented before, it will be on exclusive or non-exclusive contract basis, looking for pipeline. And also it is expected that there will be cooperation agreements between fund managers and the industry experts for evaluating the proof of concept, the commercialization potential of the projects. So this is the structure. In respect of the mandate parameters, basically, I already mentioned about that this is the first case of the regional instrument, also for the EIF as well as for us and Croatian Development Bank. I think this would be the best practice case for the EIF as well for the other development banks in the region to join. Expected allocations into a fund focused on technology transfer will, as I mentioned, cover various fields. So commercial demonstration development, IP licensing, creation of new companies, launch of spin-offs or joint ventures, and of course will stimulate the collaboration between the universities. I must say that we have already presented the initiative, the platform, to Slovenian universities, also to major Slovenian research institutes, as well as the Croatian universities and the Ruđer Bošković Institute, and they are very supporting to join and to participate in the project. What is there for public research organizations? So first is the support for penetrating deep tech innovators, creating the market, so that the smooth transition from the idea to the commercialization of the idea. It's open to all innovators in any priority field. And it's also at the early pre-incorporation stages of TRL development, which is maybe a little bit different than from classic TT funds field of businesses. Then it's also agile financing from idea to investments. So it's easier for universities to, let's say, find a path for advanced research into the new technologies and to make a transition from laboratory to commercial environment. As the colleague said before, it is crucial and it's very important what is the team. So whether the team, the universities and research institutes are ready to think on entrepreneurial way, let's say, and that they are willing also to step in and be the owner and the manager and the entrepreneur on the spin-off and spin-out company. And of course, it's very important that also in universities and research institutes supports spin-outs and spin-offs. And the last, it is very important to build an ecosystem and communities. So it's important that in the future also the business promotion services are supported. So trainers, mentors of the companies, also awareness of the vehicle. And that's what was also why I asked about the investors in particular, because we don't expect investors on the level of the fund, but we do want to see private investors involved in as a co-investors into the companies supported by the technology transfer platform. Building the vision for breakthrough portfolio management and ecosystem integration. I think that our platform will integrate portfolio management industry, ecosystem, universities, research institutes, as well as changing a little bit also of the mindset to be more focused on the commercialization already in the phase of the idea of the research project. And that's basically it. So if you will have any questions, please go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalia. Now it's time for questions. We will allow 1 or 2 questions. I don't see any questions yet in the, okay, I have hands rising from Matthias Kekel. Matthias, yes, please.
Hi, thank you for the interesting presentation. So I have only one question. So I understood that you start in November a kind of a beauty contest. So some GPs can send the applications for the future tech transfer fund, and you can you choose the best team for the
Yes.
40 million. Okay. Okay.
Yes, exactly. The team has to be the mixed team. Actually, it should also consist that at least one member of the team should be from Croatia and one from the Slovenia, but we expect to have international teams otherwise. So, you know, just to have a foot on the field. And of course, it's very important for us also that we get from the international members of the team the experience also. So the TT platform initiative, it's kind of the aim is also to do the capacity building in both countries.
And if you have chosen your future team, so please send them out my contact details, because we built up a TT tech transfer fund network across Europe with people from Spain and Finland and Norway. So we would be happy to also talk to the new team in Croatia and Slovenia.
Thank you. I will gladly do that. Thank you for the kind offer.
Okay, thank you for question. We have one question over the text. So it was regarding the phases of investment. I will read the question. You plan to finance 100 projects with 40 million, means 0.4 million per project. This would cover only POC part, but not enough for commercialization. How you will finance the rest? So the question is with regard to this different stages of investment. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah. Actually, this is 40 million. It means to have to be 50 million dedicated to the projects in Slovenia and 15 million to the projects in Croatia, and the rest will go for the covering of the cost of the fund management. And if there will be still some money left, then we will be distributed between the most competitive, the best projects in both countries. The platform is shaped or structured in the way that if there will be a lot of pipeline that would have a potential for commercialization, we could always, the Seed Bank and Croatian Development Bank and EIF together, in the same relationship, could top up the platform, so we could put additional money into it. But 100 pipeline project was estimated as they are already, or it will be in the next 5 years. The ticket sizes would be different. It depends on, not all of them will go to the next level, you know, to have top of financing. We also expect quite high number, because it's a value of that we are addressing, high level of defaults or write-offs, let's say. But still, I think that there could be, we made actually the scenario analysis, and I think that around 30% max would be also financed by the second rounds for the scale up.
Okay, thank you.